Okay, everyone, to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have a really awesome review for you of an absolute stunner. And I think actually the first Tag Heuer ever featured for a full review on this channel. A little about the brand. Tag Heuer is a Swiss-made brand originally founded back in 1860, known as Heuer, of course, then later combined with Tag, which is pretty much short for Techniques d'Avant-Garde. Back in 1985 to eventually be purchased by the French luxury goods conglomerate LVMH in 1999. While the brand's image has been more highly contested by enthusiasts, most casual consumers view the brand as an affordable alternative to the likes of Rolex and Omega, which is why they're still, going really strong. But it is nice for them to come out with items like this that really speak to the enthusiast. I mean, this thing's gorgeous. Of course, it's a chronograph, some key characteristics and design. When you're looking at a chronograph, you're going to see external pushers to activate some timing functions, of course, multiple subdials to measure elapsed time, often featuring additional scales depending on the subgenre. This is from their Carrera line. This is the 60th anniversary, and it has this beautiful timeless Panda dial, pays tribute to the highly coveted glass box 2447SN for Silver Noir, Heuer Carrera of the 1960s. This is limited to 600 pieces and is completely sold out, but it is available for purchase from Belmont Watches in San Diego for $8,450. So $8,450 is what they're listing it at, and you got to pay to play sometimes. It's a limited edition that is actually very limited, only 600 units, all sold out. So typically there's going to be some level of a markup. And this thing is in pristine condition. So I completely understand that. So with all that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, guys, another huge shout out to Belmont Watches here in San Diego for providing this piece, lending it in, because this thing is absolutely gorgeous. I am a big fan of Belmont watches. I've purchased a few watches from them, whether they be new or used, as well as even made some trades as of late. So you might see some of my watches listed there on their page, or on their eBay, I guess, depending on what tier my watches will suit. But this piece here, my goodness, we all know that Heuer has been infamous for this. They'll re-release these Heuer models that really pull at your heartstrings in limited fashion, and then they'll kind of update. And this year they really did update. The Carrera line added these very cool all dial style 39 millimeters chronographs, and they're fantastic. But this right here, I mean, does it get any better? Does it get any better than this? Let's just get it going. Ooh. All right. So 39 millimeter diameter, 14.4 millimeters thick, but that is, of course, with a whole lot of that beautiful box domed sapphire. So fully polished case, 47.3 millimeters lug to lug, but you can see the signature Carrera kind of shape to it, where it does, angle down quite a bit to really hug the wrist quite beautifully and kind of guide this very supple perforated rally strap right around your wrist. And then, of course, this box dome sapphire is gorgeous, my goodness, and it is very proud, standing very tall above the case. So I mean, without this crystal, you're looking at closer to like 11 millimeters, guys. 10 or 11 millimeters, which for some of you might recognize that is very thin for a chronograph. Oh my goodness. Beautifully signed crown with, of course, the old school Heuer logo. We move it over to the back. Oh yes. In-house movement, guys, without any drama around it. Column wheel chronograph. So you could actually let this run and it's not going to have any wear or tear. This really awesome, you can see, design that they did on the rotor. Very, very cool, reminiscent of, you know, some spokes on a racing wheel, but beautifully cut out and very thin. And there's one of the things where, like, let's say you gave a little shake, you are going to feel a little bit of that movement, similar to, let's say, a Valjoux based movement. But at the end of the day, some folks do like feeling their watch be alive, right? Being mechanical on their wrist. But I will say that that is something. Of course, it's not winding when it's going that direction. It winds when it goes the other direction. So, but very nicely finished, guys. You can see quite handsome sapphire display back. So, you know, I know sometimes you kind of expect Tag to do the cheap thing, you know, using plastic movement holders and stuff like that. But you can see here the nice thing, sapphire display window, very beautifully etched, limited edition. You're seeing, you know, which limited edition it is out of out of 600. And this thing is just gorgeous, guys. Man, this is gorgeous. And they even did a great job with the patinaed loom. That custardy loom, just, it's perfect because it just adds another layer of contrast. It's as much a smart color choice as it is, you know, an effort to age the watch and make it appear, you know, more akin to the watches that inspired it, you know, with their particular vintage. And that pale silver dial, again, is going to render visually white in most lighting situations, but it's going to just come to life so much more. I really love the look of this one. That automatic in-house movement is the HEUER, the Heuer O2. And it has an 80-hour power reserve and still has a 4 hertz beat rate. So full 28,800 vibrations per hour on that. So that's very nice smooth sweep. And it's going to look especially nice and smooth, you know, on that little sub dial there. So, you know, again, not a shortcut taken, which is great. Getting into the details of this gorgeous dial, pale silver sunray dial with those black subdials featuring the concentric circle texture in each of them. Very nice. Applied indices, polished hands with painted accents, as well as that fully painted chronograph seconds hand, as well as all of the subdial hands are white paint over the black. And it looks great. One thing that you probably haven't even noticed that you should be celebrating, there's no date. This is a no date dial, yes. No date, no awkward date, cut out, slanted, out of place. You can call it a beauty mark if you're going to be motivated about a date window, but none of that. Just perfectly symmetrical, gorgeous. And oh man, I'm so glad that they did that, especially for something limited like this. This is truly a piece you could wear every day. Very iconic. The Carrera line is iconic. Heuer, the name, of course, is very iconic. And even though there is some baggage that comes along with modern Tag Heuer, you're going to be able to negate most of that just through your choice in an absolute classic watch. Has 100 meters of water resistance, 19 millimeter lugs, which isn't the greatest. You know, 20 millimeters would have been great, but honestly, looking at this, I can see, you know, it looks great, so I can't really argue too much with it. And honestly, in this day and age, 19 millimeter lugs are a little easier to find. You get this perforated rally strap tapering down to 16 millimeters at the matching and signed pin buckle there, fully polished to go with the fully polished case. Again, this is all very pristine, looks hardly ever worn, if ever. Honestly, this thing is just in really gorgeous condition. So while I won't be putting, actually maybe I will put it on wrist. I mean, this is it's a very, I mean, just briefly, right? So let's just do that. Let's put it on wrist and see how it wears. Okay, guys, wow, gorgeous. It's down to the third hole, so if you have a larger than 7.5-inch wrist, you know, maybe you're not even looking for 39 millimeter watches, but I will say this thing fits wonderful. And again, you can always get an aftermarket strap, and 19mm straps realistically aren't as hard to find as they once were. But of course, if I get my hand a little bit too close to the camera, you're gonna, although you can get the details, you're gonna see a little bit of lens distortion there. It's gonna make the watch feel a little bit bigger than it actually is. So what I'll do is I'll keep my wrist a little bit lower and just tighten the shot up here for you guys so you can still get an idea of some of those details while getting a little bit of a truer aspect ratio of how this will sit centered on your wrist if you were to just look down while wearing it. And you can see it is beautifully centered. You still get to see a lot of the strap there on top of the wrist. You see those perforations. It just gives a beautiful vibe. You get these great, even though it's fully high polished, it's fully beveled. And you can see those flats just capture light and reflect them back with just such a beautiful luster and charm. Oh man. And you can see that the AR coating is doing its job, just keeping the focus on that gorgeous dial. You can see it lays very nice, and a lot of that height is attributed to that crystal. So much of the case is that polish, and then with that high polish it reflects as well, so it helps really thin things out visually as well, because it's going to reflect off of your flesh tones, reflect off of the shirt you're wearing, reflect off your surroundings, so it'll help really melt this piece away in so many ways. So this wears fantastic. It's absolutely gorgeous, guys, and that is of course purely subjective. You might not be into Panda dials, but I have to say this one is really breathtaking, and I think will be an absolute collector in the future, but something that's still modern and robust enough for you to absolutely wear every day. So of course you could get the original 60s model, but then you're worried a little bit more about the movement, the seals, the crystal. You can wear the heck out of this one, and maybe even go search out this is like romanticized idea, of course, that a collector like me would have, is you buy this watch and then you go find the vintage one and you have them together. Oh man, and you wear one for most of the time, and then on special occasions you bust out the other one. I think that would just be so much fun. But with all that said, although the loom is, isn't crazy, we can still definitely set up some loom shots of light transition and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. Oh, all right. Hey, check this out, though. You still know where 12 o'clock is because they did the dual pip. So good on you, Tag Heuer, and Heuer for, I don't know, maybe that was probably part of the original design, but I'm glad I'm glad they carried that through. But one thing I always like to work in, of course, to the loom shots is a little bit of low light transition, because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight, nor will you often be in completely pitch black environments. So it's nice to see what these colors, textures, and finishes render like in less than optimal lighting, so you can again just get a better idea of how this thing is gonna look on your wrist in different situations. And wow, yeah, we all know how it's gonna look in great lighting, but when you see it here in this transitional, it really just shows you so many more dimensions to just how sweet this thing is. Of course, even if I get into some harsh lighting here, high contrast, you could typically expose any types of imperfections, but really you're just going to expose a little bit of cloudiness on the watch from it being high polished and me just wiping it off from time to time. So that's about it. But that dial, impeccable. Look at the way that you have, of course, the sunray main dial, and then you have, of course, those concentric circles on the sub dials playing with the light in different ways, holding it, reflecting it, but still ultimately, even at this level, right, just reflecting and keeping contrast, which is one of the great things about the Panda dial, is just this idea of ultimate functionality, legibility, and high contrast. And man, it is also happens to be gorgeous. And you can see with the light play, you really can bring out some of the deeper gray tones of that silver dial, which again, right now you look at it and you think, oh, it's a white dial with a sunray finish. So, closing thoughts, guys, on the wrist, classic proportions, wears beautifully thin and hugs the wrist really well. Again, guys, this is a chronograph. I mean, I'm used to talking about chronographs that are like 16 millimeters thick, you know, especially if they have you know, a dome this high on the sapphire. So to get that under 15 millimeters with that huge dome on it, right? And you take away the dome, and you really, the case that you have is closer to 11 millimeters. It's just something very, very special. In terms of model variants, every now and then Tag reissues traditional Heuer branded inspiration, but this one really does stand out as one of their finest examples. Like, yeah, there's a red dial, there's a green dial, like there's different ones that have come and gone, Jack Heuer specials. But again, this one has that in-house movement, perfect size, perfect colorway, perfect proportions. This thing is just absolutely wonderful. No date, guys, no date. Ooh, no date dial. This is for the enthusiasts. This isn't for the mall shopper who just walks in and just says, that one looks kind of cool, I'll try that one, right? This is for a real aficionado and enthusiast who really is investing into the history, into this gorgeous aesthetic. And then in terms of comparable models, guys, again, while you may find other Panda style Chronos for less, many of them will only be paying homage to this iconic aesthetic, while the Carrera can just be itself here. I mean, it is just, this is it. You know, this isn't them trying to capture a famous iconic look. This is them reissuing it because they are one of the originators who made this look so iconic. And that's something, you know, that you can't buy. That's not something that an upstart can just create very easily without a whole lot of time, a whole lot of, you know, selling a lot of watches, having them appear on the right wrists, appear, you know, over time, and, you know, historical events, racing events. It's very cool, and you've seen that a lot of folk collect Carreras in general, and this is a very collectible modern example of one. So for me, the bottom line, this is a timeless classic in both name and design, wonderfully executed in a well-spec'd and very modern package. So with that said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like the video, please leave a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.